Alright, that's a Husqvarna 125B 2008 model, and been showing signs of running too lean on the gas, so starving for gas. Just want to show you if I can what that is. I'm going to choke it, start it. And it won't run. Now you can run it in the in-between mode, which makes the mixture a little richer, but it just won't run on the full run mode. So I'm going to have to get into it and see what's going on. Okay, this is Husqvarna 125B leaf blower. Bought this in 2008, and it's showing signs of starving for gas. It'll run, but after you start it, you're on full choke, it'll have to run at intermediate to be able to run, because if I put it on open, it'll die. So I'm going to start by checking the filter, the air filter. It looks to me like it's pretty bad shape, but usually when a filter is clogged, it'll tend to cause it to run too rich, and this one's running too lean. So I'm going to clean that out. We'll test it and see how it does, but I suspect it's the carburetor. It's got to be changed. Okay, I cleaned that filter with compressed air, and it cleaned up a little bit, but then I thought I'd just test it with no filter, and there was no difference. It's still starving for gas, or it's running too lean. Okay, I don't know if you can see that or not, but I took the filter off. There's two small nuts in there that will remove this plastic housing. Now this tube there's a tube connecting this pump here to prime it with, and we'll have to deal with that in a minute. I'm going to start taking them screws out, or them nuts off. Hope I don't drop them. Got one, and it's got a washer head on it. Just I don't have to worry about dropping the washer. Got two of them. Alright, there's two hoses on the end of this, and that's the primer pump, and they have to be in the right order, I think, to pump it the right direction. So there's a top and a bottom. I'm going to take those off now. Be back in a second. Okay, I just took off the top hose on there, left the other one on. Now to get this choke lever through here, you got to put the choke all the way over on that side, and it'll come through that space right there. But look how loose that is. That ain't right. I don't think it's sealed. In fact, it's been leaking gas, and you can see how the choke works. That's full choke. That's the other way. So I'm going to have to take this side off. There's some this is all metric, by the way, metric screws here, and I'll take him off and take a look here in a second. Just a quick note, I'm taking out 4 screws on the pull cord. Then there's 1, 2, 3, at least 3 on the plastic, and they're different threads. The ones that go in the plastic are designed, they're like a wood screw, and the ones in the cord there, it's a machine screw. So they look like they're the same when you take them out. They're the same length and everything, but they are not the same. So they got to go back the same way. Let me go ahead and get this off now. Okay, I'm going to take this off. This comes with it, so you don't have to worry about taking the handle off or nothing. That's just a lockdown on the trigger. This lever here, I'm going to take that loose, and this just slides over a post. That trigger does. And to do that, you can take this lever off. Let's go ahead and slide the carburetor off. It's still attached to the gas tank. There's a, I don't know if you can see it or not, there's a rubber or a plastic hose right here that's got it still held, but let's go ahead and slide it. It's sliding on these two posts. I took the nuts off. Take him off, that off of there. Come on now. Okay. Now, there's a gasket. Let's take that off carefully. Don't want to ruin the gasket. Guess I can make one out of a cereal box if I needed to. Okay, so just want you to see what I'm looking at here. This is it's just a rubber boot, and looks like a pretty Mickey Mouse design to me, but that's just a piece of rubber in there, or plastic, and it's going right into the cylinder. If you look in the carburetor throat here, you can see this, actually see the cylinder, but I'm not thinking I can do much with that. I mean, you can see it's been leaking. There's some fuel up here around the area, and it's leaking a little bit, but I don't think I can help it much without tearing out all that stuff. And there's no obvious way it's held either. It's just like, you know, wedged in there. Now these bolts here, you know, hold the carburetor on to this spacer, but they don't make it, they don't attach anything to the cylinder. And I don't know how the heck that's supposed to hold, but I got a new carburetor. I want to stick it on there, and we'll see what happens. I think it'll still run, but this thing's already 9 years old. May not last much longer if that gasket, or if that plastic spacer and boot couldn't be replaced, then I don't know what to do with it. Anyway, let me go ahead and start putting it together. So I bought a new carburetor, and this thing was $34. Kind of expensive. Made in China, of course. It's called a Zama. It's a Z-A-M-A. Zama. Must mean something in Chinese, I don't know. Anyway, got two new gaskets, and I'm going to go ahead and start to assemble this. Well, I ran into a little complication. This the hose that goes on this goes into the gas tank. This one goes on that primer button. But that leak I had just a minute ago, what happened was this was in the cap in the gas tank, and this actually broke off. This little piece here, it was coming through that little hole right there, and it was broke off. I tried to put this back in that tank, like never got it in there, and I couldn't because there's still some holes in there from where it broke. So I gotta go get another one of these. I might be able to make it work, but it wouldn't go to the, well, maybe I can make it work. That might still go at the bottom of the gas tank. I'm gonna try that. Maybe I can save a trip. Well, turns out I couldn't save a trip. This stuff is so brittle because it's so old that it just ain't gonna make it. So I gotta get some more of this. Okay, I'll take a minute to explain some of the hookup on this new carburetor, just so you make sure you get it back right. First of all, this is the choke lever and it has to be out, obviously. So that means you'll get it, there's no way to get it wrong that way. So it's going to go on these two studs here when I put it back. So another verification is this hose that is on an angle is pointing down towards the gas tank. That's how you know that that gets the hose with the filter. And the other side is going to go to the to this primer pump here. Now make sure that you get the right one. One of these two connections is push and the other one is draw. So what you want is the long one is the push and the short one is the draw. So you want the hose going to the gas tank, that's push. That's going to put pressure, actually it's exhaust, but it puts pressure back in the gas tank. And the other side is going to put a vacuum on this hose, which draws gasoline through the carburetor from the gas tank. So that's how you get it back together the correct way. I went ahead and replaced some of this hose. It was pretty cheap, $2, and it was rotten because of the gas. The gas is all got ethanol in it now, and that ethanol not only eats up the hoses, but it eats up the insides of the carburetor too. So to help prevent that, they make us stuff like this, an additive that you can put in your fuel, and it helps prevent that. But this particular leaf blower is 9 years old, and they didn't have this stuff when I first bought it, so that's the reason it's all ate up. But I'll go ahead and start putting this back together now. Okay, I got the carburetor sitting on the studs. Put this gasket back on it. That's a new gasket. And I put the filter side of this one hose into the gas tank. A little grommet on top. Kind of hard to push it in, but it's in there. And now I'm ready to put this housing on. And it just snaps in. You can see the little, maybe you can see the little hooks here on the back to keep it into place once you get it in there. But it goes on this way. Put the hoses through the slot in there and then snap it into place. Just like that. Now this housing has to go through there. That's where the choke lever goes through. Then over the studs. And line them up like that. And now I just got to put them two nuts back in there. And you can see where they go. And that's just these two little nuts. I'll hold that on there. And I'll get back in a second. Now you want to pull them nuts up pretty snug, but on the other hand, you don't want to over torque them because it's just a piece of plastic spacer in there holding them studs. So I'd use one of these as opposed to one with a handle on it the other way, because you can't get as much torque with something like this. But get them fairly snug. Now I'm ready to put the lever back on it for the trigger, so I can start putting it back together. All I gotta do is find out what I did with it. Well, where the heck is it? Oh, jeez. Okay, I've just put that end of that trigger lever back in this little hole that it come out of on the carburetor, and now it just slips back over this stud here like that. And now this is the cover off of the exhaust. It's a heat shield, and that has to go together too as part of this housing assembly. So it just catches in there in some little lugs. So I'm going to go ahead and stick this back on now. Okay, I'm just finishing up these bolts or screws. Make sure you get the right screws back in the right place. These three here are like a wood screw or sheet metal screw, and these are machine screws, so get that back. And when you're using one of these, use it this way instead of this way, because although these need to be snug, you could bust that plastic pretty easy. Okay, put the builder back on. We can go out and give it a try. I've already primed it. I wanted to make sure that button worked. It does. And in case you're wondering what this is, something to put your foot on when you start it, because sometimes this piston likes to seize up when you're trying to start it, and it just flips up at you and busts your knuckles. So I added that to it. All right, let's go see if it'll work. Okay, come on. All right, let's see if it's gonna work or not. Choke it. I've already primed it. Like brand new. That's probably good for a couple more years anyhow. Later.